All right, let's toss it over to the fourth member of our broadcast.
The immediate and most pressing factor in this rematch will be if Dubois has learned anything about dealing with the open stance lead hand. In the open stance, the lead hands being aligned usually leads to a jab joust to establish lead hand dominance, where the top hand wins. More skilled fighters like Usyk can turn this game into a trap, drawing out his opponent's lead hand probe to then land offense over, around, or under it. Dubois, on the other hand, was completely lost in terms of dealing with the open stance lead hand. He clearly doesn't have an understanding of the jab joust, more than attempting to match Usyk's probes, which left him befuddled and falling for the same trap over and over and over again. If he can't clean this up, he'll likely lose again. This becomes even more of an issue for Dubois since he tends to habitually counter jabs with a jab of his own on the same timing. Usyk's constant lead hand probes made it extremely difficult for Dubois to figure out whether he was dealing with a jab probe or an actual committal jab. So often, Usyk could draw out these jab counters with the same lead hand play from earlier. And counter to counter. Dubois' guard is usually a loose conventional guard with flared elbows, which isn't technically sound to say the least. It relies on reactions to pick off and parry punches, so it can be taken out of position by the same probes, feints, and level changes Usyk uses constantly. Even ignoring everything said prior, just the way Dubois holds his gloves allowed Usyk to land clean nearly at will. Dubois combines pendulum bounces and rhythm steps as he shifts his weight quickly from his lead to rear leg. This without feints creates a rhythm where it can be easy to figure out when Dubois lands his lead foot. If he's pushed onto his back foot, he'll often L-step in range, followed by a cross-step which breaks his base until he steps back into stance. To make it worse, if he's pressured, he may crosswalk while moving laterally or while moving straight back, again breaking his base and leaving him vulnerable until he regains his stance. During this, he keeps his conventional guard or even drops a guard, so while the crosswalk in his stance breaks his base and limits his ability to defend himself, he's already in a guard that doesn't lend itself to stopping punches from taking a first-class flight to his face. Usyk was able to time these moments again and again and again. Angle changes are arguably the most recognizable part of Usyk's game. He uses a variety of setups, from pendulum steps, level changes, and pre-slips to disguise his penetration step and then usually a shuffle to the weak side angle. To Dubois' credit, they clearly game planned around denying the angle, choosing mostly to disengage or turn with control whenever Usyk faded towards the weak side. There were, however, still hiccups here and there. If Dubois was slow to match the angle, he was at Usyk's mercy. On the defensive, Usyk can often default to an inactive high guard. This guard takes refuge behind the inactive shields to block punches. Usyk holds his guard higher than usual, prioritizing defending his head over his body, which has left him vulnerable to bodywork, along with the usual openings. When moving backwards, Usyk may maneuver his body in an awkward way to attempt to avoid bodywork, compromising his balance and often forcing him into a crosswalk backwards where he can be followed out with further offense, or alternatively, shuffling back where he may begin lateral movement. If and when Usyk is on the back foot, his punch output tends to dwindle down while his opponent remains aggressive. Dubois only truly pressured Usyk a handful of times, but when he did, he found some success. So if this becomes the game plan, it could give Usyk a lot more issues. While Usyk's probe game is excellent, the sheer amount he throws means that he's prone to having them eventually begin to be split with counters. This tends to force a single high shield or a pseudo shield to defend after he punches. The single shield presents Usyk with a guessing game where he has to guess the trajectory of his opponent's rear hand, their most powerful punch, to have a chance at blocking it. Even if he guesses correctly, the rear hand can still smash through the guard. Meanwhile, there's still an opening on his right side. Usyk more often than not prioritizes protecting his head rather than his body, so a clear opening exists. Even though Dubois' bodywork might stray low. If Dubois is aggressive and forces Usyk to fight on the back foot, he can have a lot of success. Usyk's game simply isn't built to deal with pressure. However, if Dubois attempts to box with Usyk mid-range again, he has little to no chance. He simply has far too many flaws to compete with the highly skilled all-time great on the level of Oleksandr Usyk. Dubois will have to leverage his youth and athleticism to overwhelm Usyk, or this will be a repeat of the first fight. Let me know you got it in the comments below. Thanks for watching.